Coming to you, a Russian drone strike has killed 2 people in a house in eastern Ukraine as Moscow's forces continue their push for more territory. The attack took place in the village of Pidserednie, northeastern of Kharkiv, where the house was completely destroyed. Emergency services shared images of firefighters battling flames from the burning structure. Rescue workers recovered the bodies of a man and woman from the rubble, with 1 additional person reported wounded. And some more breaking news. Iran lashes out at Israel for airstrikes on Lebanon. The spokesperson for the Iranian Foreign Ministry, Ismail Bakay, posted on X and strongly condemned the airstrikes by the Zionist regime on Lebanon. Airstrikes including in the Bekaa region, which resulted in the maritime dome and injury of civilians and caused damage to Lebanese infrastructure. He called for urgent action by the United Nations Security Council to fulfill its duty in maintaining international peace and security, referring to the continuous violations of Lebanon's national sovereignty and territorial integrity. The spokesperson described the ongoing silence and inaction of the UN Security Council in the face of the Zionist regime's law-breaking and crimes as catastrophic. He emphasized the direct responsibility of the US and France as guarantors of the ceasefire for the continuation of this situation. A local ceasefire has been implemented near the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant in southeastern Ukraine to allow repairs to an external power line. The plant, Europe's largest, has been under Russian control since 2022 and relies on external power to cool its nuclear material and prevent a catastrophic incident. Russian officials stated that the power line is still operational, but repairs to the second line will take at least a week. Russian management claims that radiation levels remain normal. The issue of who held control of the plant is a key point in US-mediated peace talks set to resume in Geneva next month. There has been no immediate comment from Ukraine. We are now being joined by Ben Aris, who is a former Moscow bureau chief and worked for the Daily Telegraph. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining us here from London. Thank you for joining us here today on NewsX World. What does this establishment of this localised ceasefire to enable repairs at Europe's largest nuclear plant tell us about the current state of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and an international pressure for safety measures?
Thanks for having me, Alice. Well, Zaporizhzhia, as you said, is the biggest nuclear power station in Europe. And of course, since the winter began, Putin has launched a campaign to basically try and freeze Ukraine into submission by completing the destruction of Ukraine's energy sector in the midst of one of the coldest winters in decades. I think about 20% of the capacity is still functioning. Ukraine is heavily dependent on imports of power from its neighbors in the European Union. But within this, the nuclear power stations, I think there's 4 still functioning, although Zaporizhzhia itself, because it's been captured and is under Russian military control, has been shuttered. Nevertheless, the problem with the nuclear power stations is that obviously Russia has not been directly targeting the facilities themselves. It's been going for the substations and the grids that surround them and allow them to deliver power. But occasionally they get hit or damaged. And that presents a Chernobyl-like nightmare scenario of another nuclear meltdown that will I don't know, Russia would be condemned all over the world for doing that if it did it on purpose. It's not going there. And so when something like Zaporizhzhia gets damaged in the fighting, then it's in everybody's interest to hold a temporary ceasefire and repair it to make sure that the cores don't melt down. That's separate from the wider campaign that Russia is pursuing of taking out the energy in general. And so that campaign continues. The energy assets continue to be hit. But as you said, as it's been reported, Zaporizhzhia got hit. And so this is actually, I think, the second time this month that there's been a temporary ceasefire in order to do repairs.
Thank you so much, Ben, for joining us here today on NewsX World. Sorry, we have run out of time. We have some more breaking news.